I think I want to move on into players that stood out to us
Yeah.
at the tournament because I did have one of my other takeaways from, I mean, honestly, a very eventful Nationals, I would say,
Yeah.
is that kind of feels like, there's a new guard coming in, I would say, in terms
Totally.
of young players kind of taking over the scene. And I think it's exaggerated by the fact that COVID happened recently. There's a couple years of stagnation where people aren't playing. And I think it'll also be emphasized by this new Worlds team that's going to happen that hasn't happened since 2016. I just think a lot of the names that we're familiar with, your Jimmys, your Dylans, like these types of guys are, they're starting to age out. And I think for me, that was emphasized at this Nationals because there were a lot of younger guys having really big
Really good
roles,
tournaments.
really good tournaments for the good teams. And also a pony losing in quarters was kind of crazy. That was pretty wild to me. Definitely. And I think it kind of goes to show with a machine who has a Joe, a younger person. People have known him for a while, but he's, really maybe potentially blossoming. At least he did play really well at this tournament. A Bravo, who's a lot of young guys out of Mama Bird that people are starting to get familiar with.
Don't forget about Cody Spicer.
Don't forget about Cody. No way. But
CSU Hibida.
And it's not to say that these teams don't have the veterans. Usually there's a good balance, but there's a for sure large influx of these younger guys and a ring with all these new North Carolina guys. But yeah, so why don't you guys, Quinn, why you want to start and give us some names that popped out at you?
Yeah. This is all going to be players that we played against. So
Yeah,
I didn't look at stats from the weekend at all, nothing like that. So it's all going to be players we played against. But I'll kind of go down the list from Truck. A couple of guys. I think Agee Merriman. He always gets credit for being a super athletic defender, but a really smart defender. He's had a couple really smart poach blocks.
He did
during the tournament. One against us. My throw to Ukins that he somehow got. The one in the dig game, which was whatever.
The controversial one, but he was there, man.
Yeah, he's a good defender. I don't know if Thomas Edmonds can be considered underrated, but him for that D line was
crazy
good for that D line. So him, and then Troy Holland. We've had a lot of matchups over the last couple of years, me and him, and it felt like he came out with a little bit of extra against me this time against Trucker. So, on ring, Alex Davis, AD, kind of gave me the business, dude. So he's a great defender, great player. And then on that team, Ben Dameron, I still think he's underrated. I don't know how he's underrated because he's just so good at everything.
He might not be.
I don't know if he's underrated. I don't know, but he's really good. Who else? What was our next Darkstar? I don't know any of the players.
Hylke Steiner, baby.
Hylke.
Let's just shout out Hylke.
Shout out Hylke. Yeah. And then on Revolver, Adam Reese, great player. People know this. He played great against us.
He did.
Ing, welcome back. He's a tough matchup. He's a great player. Stood out to me. And then Machine. I mean, I think Joe, probably the best player at the tournament. That tournament, he just his ability to play, just take over games, and his mindset that he just commands the disc and always not always, but does great things with it. Throws really hard throws. Does the hard things that makes it way easier for the rest of his teammates. So Joe, obviously, Paul Arders had a couple sweet
He
throws.
did. Fuck.
The guy always plays like Paul Erders is obviously very, very talented, very good. But he plays on such a nice edge.
He does.
With his hucks. Like he always throws them so edgy and takes a lot of hard shots. So when he's on, if you're playing against a Paul Erders team, you're probably going to lose. You're probably going to lose if he's on. If he's off, it's pretty good for the team that like you're probably going to win. But he was on and very, very effective. I feel like I could almost shout out that entire machine O-line. Like Keegan North was sneaky good. The Canadian dude, I don't want to butcher his name. They call him OJ.
Yeah.
Auger-Semmar. He's
that we'll talk about later, I think.
Yeah, he's great. And then I think this is the dude that was guarding me a lot of the game, who I wasn't familiar with. Jeff Gow, I believe, on machine.
Looking up I'm trying to.
He was a very strong defender.
What was his number? Do you remember?
Jeez, I don't.
There is a Jeff Gow. 18.
Yeah, it's him. Yeah, he was a very strong defender, and yeah, I think that's my.
Wow, that was a lot of names.
That was
a lot of names.
I have like 2, I think.
Well, those are like all the people that guarded me that like I thought did a good job, or people that I was watching. Yeah,
sure.
So there is a way, and I've done this a million times over the years of clicking around the USA Ultimate website to get the stats for the entire tournament in one list. I always forget the order of clicks, though. I can easily get ours and other teams individually. But I'll shout out 2 players. I
got one more. Sorry.
Okay, go for it.
It's not a surprise either. It's Nate Goff. His ability to. This is mostly from a defensive side of the standpoint. His ability to guard quick players in the handler set for being like 6'4" or whatever he is insanely impressive. The way that he guards quicker players in smaller spaces.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
I'll give a quick bravo. Well, shoot, I have more than a few, than 2.
Are we doing Bravo players? I could.
Can I?
Yeah, go for it. I didn't.
I'm stealing the mic from you now.
Go.
I'm Noah Coolman for us. Obviously, huge tournament. All sides. He. The thing earlier in the season, Joe and I were talking about Noah and trying to figure out how to get him. Not on offense. It was actually a pro champs when we were running like an upwind line, and we were wanting to get him on that line. But Noah has some quirks in his game and some unpredictabilities, but it's so worth it because that guy is a fucking playmaker.
Yeah.
He defensively, those fucking blocks that he gets, his throws, for some reason, we do not categorize him as a thrower, but he is. He's a very good thrower. He's a strong thrower. And obviously, as a receiver, that athleticism is 99th percentile in the sport. Present company notwithstanding, I'll move on to Denny Bechis for us as well, because we call him two-time. Denny two-time. 2 national titles. 3 if you who knows how many if you count all levels,
dude. 4.
I think my biggest regret from the semis is I didn't just run everything through Denny. We should have just called more stuff for him. I have a lot of regrets at this point, sort of. And then from other teams, I guess I'll just stick to the machine folks. Nate Goff, obviously for the reasons you mentioned. Such a difference maker. Bansfield, we'll talk about Bansfield more, but was so disruptive.
Yeah.
With the way he can cover the field and not get torched that often by the guy that he's leaving. And then obviously Joe White. Joe, he's the best player in the world right now. I think there's a lot of people who can potentially take that torch from him pretty soon. Maybe I would include that with my present company, but I think Joe's got the belt right now. He's the best player in the game. He does not let a possession go away or go by without him affecting it. You know, we almost criticized him for that before because he, in similar way that you were talking about earlier, is like if Joe's not on, then he can lose you a game. He was fucking on the entire tournament, and is, in my mind, the reason they made such a strong run.
For sure.
What about you, Kins?
I have a couple. I'll steal the Coolman one from you. I thought Coolman obviously had a huge weekend. Maybe not as good of a semifinal as he would have liked, but he did play amazing. All the games. Just so athletic and really intelligent thrower. And I think like just scratching the surface too of like how good he can be. Like this is the first year he had this kind of role on a team that was this good. And so I think like the more we play together, the more we talk about things, like the ceiling is incredibly high for him. I'll go on the Joe one as well. I agree. Yeah, definitely probably the best player at the tournament. And I think like it's so important in those kind of games and in those moments when the pressure is on to have someone who, seemingly doesn't feel that pressure and has such a big impact. And it's like when you have someone who's going to be able to affect that many offensive points, like you said, like the impact they can have on a team, it's similar to like a quarterback, in the NFL, or like a starting pitcher in baseball. Like they can have that kind of impact. So Joe, and then I wanted to do the Ben Dameron one as well. I think Ring is a really good team, but I think he's the one that stands out to me. He's just a competitor, and I really like that aspect of him. And so I think those are probably the players as a whole. And interesting, no one really from like I want to pick someone from Truck, and I'm just not really sure who to pick because I think they play they play just really well as a team, and they're deep. So no one really like stood out to me. I mean, I think Rowan's an obvious one just because he has a similar impact on the game in terms of touches and the difficulty throws that he makes to just unlock offenses. I mean, God, he had one just inside.
Those OEOs
are just ridiculous, dude. Like he had one in the game against us, and I'm like,
yeah,
you're looking and throwing windows that I just not even fucking considering, honestly.
Yeah, he throws it so early too.
It's unbelievable. And I think that's a big chemistry thing for those teams. But yeah, I would say those were my like real standouts from the weekend.
Yeah. And I could do a whole love fest on our team, honestly.
That's why I omitted.
Yeah. How about one more for us, and maybe you guys would have some to add. Jarvis, defensive nightmare, and for us, I think. Would you guys say he's our cultural leader at this point?
He's one of them.
For sure.
I'd say he's one of them.
Yeah, one of them.
And that block he got on Joe was
pretty sick.
It's crazy, dude. It was crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
My favorite part of this is a Kin story. After Kins got that block, or Jarv got that block on Joe, Kins is like strutting up the sideline, just like talking to their team, saying, "Wow, that's tough. Your best player just getting D'd up like that. That's real tough, man." Just walking up and I like have to remove myself from the situation because I'm just like, this guy is out of control. So that was hilarious. But they obviously got the last laugh. But that was fucking so funny.
Yeah, that was incredible.
I'll give another one from our team. I could give them to every single player on our team, but for Jay,
he's on my mind.
Like, he's playing an entirely different role for us that he's never played in his career, like ever, and he's doing it so well. He's such a gamer. Like when the game starts, you just know like you're gonna get a crazy play from Jay, or a couple crazy plays from Jay. So, that D in the truck stop game was bonkers, like crazy
On Rowan.
on Rowan on an under that was like shoulder high. It was crazy. But yeah, I could go down the list, but that's like just that D sticks out.